Yes, let's talk about CrossFit and what happened recently. I don't know if you all are aware, but somebody was unalived at the recent CrossFit Games, drowned during a swimming competition, and a lot of stuff has been brought up. This is a rundown that I asked someone to give me, and I'm just going to read it to you. So, first off, CrossFit in general, the whole idea of CrossFit workouts came to Greg Glassman, its first CEO, as a fun way to make yourself puke from exhaustion as quick as possible. Half joking, but that's how it all started. And he gave the workouts female names of his and his buddies' exes. Kind of like how Facebook started as a way to rate women for their hotness. Later, when the team grew and there were former Army people in it, some WODs, workouts of the day, distinguishable vernacular, got names of the fallen soldiers of those members. That is just to paint a few strokes of the whole picture. At one early point, Glassman and buddies registered CrossFit as a trademark and started selling affiliation stuff to gyms after teaching people how to train others in CrossFit structure. Then they launched CrossFit Games, where, if I'm not mistaken, Dave Castro, a former Marine SEAL, was in charge of planning the competition itself. There's no such thing as a Marine SEAL. It's either Navy SEAL or Marine Special Operation, but that's okay. Each year, the contents of the competition are a surprise, so the athletes have a very rough idea of what lies ahead in the 4 days of games. This at one point started to pose a problem because A, games were traditionally held in the southern states during hot summertime, and B, particular in 2015, at least two athletes, Kara Webb and Annie Thorisdottir, almost died of heat stroke during one of the events of the games, which were held in Madison that year. The athletes were made to do a run with a weighted vest, then, if I remember correctly, some lifting, then another run back. Also, many athletes reported burns from equipment because the equipment was black and it was high heat, so not a good design idea. Both the overheating incident and the athletes' complaints were ignored by HQ. Moreover, the doctors, who by the way were volunteers at the game, like most staff, exploitation of labor, who raised public concerns, were banned from further volunteering in future games. That's a little bit culty. Fast forward to this year, and one of the athletes drowned in the first event of the first day. The reasons that were flagged by those who were present. 1, water temp was higher than acceptable, which was ignored. 2, the swim happened after a run, which is a risky decision, especially in heat wave. 3, little to no volunteers on water to safeguard. 4, the buoys weren't moved to the final route, which was changed the day before, last minute, which got some athletes disoriented. And Lazar, the one who drowned, wasn't searched for till, quote, some time after he drowned. The whole search operation was done very suboptimally as well. And then the headquarters of the games made the athletes decide whether they want to proceed with the competition. So they basically made traumatized people make such decisions in the first 24 hours after the tragedy. This is the thing about cults. You never get to rest. You never get to take care of yourself. You always got to get right back to it. And people who watched live streams saw the drowning, which is obviously very distressing for many now. What else? The headquarters made the family of the deceased decide if it's okay for the competition to go ahead. Also in the first few hours after the tragedy. And now the headquarters is launching an independent investigation, which many consider will go in the headquarters' favor. Yes, the final detail. In December 2023, when the self-organized CrossFit Athletes Association, basically a union, flagged that they have concerns for athletes' safety in 2024 games due to them being announced in Fort Worth, and asked to provide the exact BIMBR of outdoor events in advance so that athletes could be more prepared to make decisions to participate. They were brushed off till March 2024 when they were told that it will be fewer events outside than in Madison. So the tragedy was foreseen by many way before it happened. Phew, that's a short recap. So CrossFit I feel like I've always been concerned about, and I've always thought of it as a little bit culty. I got briefly into CrossFit when I was new in the Army. I was like 23 years old at my first new unit. And getting into CrossFit was cool because I hadn't really done like weightlifting. I didn't know you could push your body to certain places, you could lift crazy amounts of weight. So that I liked, but I immediately didn't like how it seemed to have to be like this group thing. That was weird to me. And then, of course, I got into paleo because the same person that introduced me to CrossFit introduced me to paleo. And I remember that feeling like a godsend. I was like, oh my gosh, I've just been looking for like a system of how I should eat, like just a system that I can adopt wholesale and put in my life. And then this guy got super grumpy with me because he told me I couldn't eat popcorn because popcorn was not paleo because you have to do it with agriculture. It doesn't just wildly grow. And I was like, no, I'm done then. I'm not going to be paleo. I'm not going to give up popcorn. In case you don't know, popcorn's a really big thing for kids in cults. It's like probably one of the few snacks we get to have. I think because it's in the Bible or something. Anyway, so I was like, no, I don't like this. And then I would see like how obsessed people would get with CrossFit and paleo together. Like it would be their whole life. And let me tell you, when bad things started coming out way before this about Greg Glassman, the CEO, like I was not surprised just because of the culty vibes that CrossFit gives. Now, an activity can't be a cult, right? But an organization can be a cult. So I think just like when I was a runner, after CrossFit, I went into just weightlifting and then I got into running distance in that deployment. And then I was just like a big distance runner after that. And I feel like the way that I participated in running was kind of culty. Like I was trying to meet that like need for cultiness in my life that I couldn't realize yet. So I don't think like, oh, if you're a runner, it's a cult, but the way that I participate in running, the sport of running was pretty culty. And I've thought that for CrossFit for a long time, just like that's how it is. I think in general, this is the problem after we leave cults, we're raised by cults, or we're someone that's a seeker, is that that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a system for how to live our lives that we can just adopt wholesale into our lives. Because I was born and raised in the Children of God religious cult, which is one of the world's most notorious and awful cults. And then after that, I was in the US Army, which also gives you a worldview and an exact system according which to live your life. You can get autographed copies of my book here. CrossFit's super, super big in the Army too. Like we would do a lot of CrossFit WODs and stuff in our daily exercise. So that kind of got like enmeshed and adopted by the Army cult, that's for sure. I think the dangerous thing is looking for any system to just lift wholesale and put into your life. And one of the things I've begun to realize is just like one of the ways you keep yourself safe from nefarious groups is you just don't devote your entire life to one thing or one idea, right? I also think that when you are recovering from a major cult like Children of God, even the military, like smaller, lesser cults that are still kind of culty, but stuff like CrossFit can be helpful because it can give you that sense of community and drive and purpose and mission that you're jonesing for, but it's not necessarily too harmful. However, then of course, here's an unalived person. And this entire situation speaks to like cult leaderness, right? Cult leaders are very bad about thinking they don't need to follow rules. They don't need to look at safety, but also just about putting the organization above individual needs every single time. And that's the part that is really concerning about all of the stuff that has gone on with CrossFit. Anyways, if you're following this story, it is really bonkers. So check it out.